Hello and welcome. This is Wise Woman Television with Errity Green, and this is the first in our series of Here on Earth, which is a new series that takes these very spiritual, philosophical, theoretical, sometimes insensitive teachings and brings them down to the level of earth, practicality, tangibility, the level of real world or real life or whatever. And today we are talking about victimhood. So this will be our topic for today, our first in the series of Here on Earth, where we take these spiritual teachings and we bring them down to earth. I first encourage you to like and subscribe. Liking ensures that other people get to see this video. It ensures a proper and healthy algorithm so these videos get out there for everyone else to see. And subscribing ensures your own commitment to yourself. So that way, every single time a notification pops up, you can return to your own spiritual growth and your own life path journey. All right, so jumping right in, today's episode, like I said, is on victimhood. And the reason I want to talk about this is because we see so much of a growing empowerment within people and collective people, big groups of people, as they awaken or become conscious. And this is a wonderful thing. So we have people awakening into their own empowerment, awakening into their own sovereignty, awakening into their own mastery and creatorship so they can take full responsibility for their lives and live and lead lives that are meaningful for them, that are enriching for them and supportive for them because they're living the life that they desire to live. This is wonderful. However, with this movement toward greater responsibility and full mastery and creatorship and our understanding of our own power, we have in the spiritual communities, the coaching communities, the personal development and personal growth communities, we have found ourselves in a place where we can deny people their pain or their trauma or their experiences. Some of us have become insensitive to the very real human trauma, tragedies, and realities that are very dark and very painful on this planet. So while we are masterful, spiritual, fully powerful, and incredibly responsible, meaning like we are responsible for everything beings in our true nature, on planet Earth, in a dualistic universe where we have both light and dark, things get pretty damn dark. And so yes, we might be all powerful, almighty beings, and I think it's really important that we recognize that. And to bring this teaching down to earth, I think it's important that we balance that understanding with compassion, with sensitivity, which these are the deeper, truer qualities of a spiritual awareness, are they not? But it's interesting to me and even ironic that we exercise those qualities and embodiments and experiences from our relating with others, and we instead stand in responsibility only, or our masterful creatorship only, and we can become very insensitive to the experiences of others who are dealing with very real pain. Now, victimhood is when people identify with their pain. This is over a period of time, period of lifetimes, if you believe in lifetimes and reincarnation, or over the course of their lives, they have come to identify with their pain, okay? They have come to identify with full disempowerment. They are not responsible beings or responsible for their lives because they feel helpless. They feel like no matter what they do, nothing changes anyway, or no matter what they do, pain comes, or no matter how hard they've tried or how much they've invested and all the things, right? We've heard the stories, we've either been in victimhood ourselves or we've seen it in other people. So we know what victimhood is. It's when they've identified with powerlessness and disempowerment. They are no longer identified then with their truth, with their true power, with their spiritual nature. So in the spiritual communities where people have come to know their power and they've awakened to a degree, they might approach someone who's in this state and demand their full sovereignty, demand they become responsible, demand you to be empowered. Do you know who you are? Do you know who you are? Right? And they bring up this tough love, and they think that being this almighty, really intense father figure, also insensitive and compassionless, they think that somehow that's going to transform this person to truly understand their own power. But in truth, that is more of the same. That is more ego. That perpetuates victimhood because we've created a power dynamic of a villain, or we could say victor in that, and victim. You have actually perpetuated that dynamic and paradigm because you've taken the role of the powerful, pushing and forcing and willing power onto this person who does not identify with that. So you've created a polarity that ensures their victimhood and ensures your own power, but not theirs. You have, in effect, victimized them and maintained their disempowerment. That approach does not work. I will say that right now. Here on earth, that approach does not work. Now, if you're watching this and you totally disagree, I honor your opinion. I honor your reality. I do believe with every fiber of my being that there are multiple truths. There are many paths, many truths. Not one way is the right way. What I do know is here on earth, that does not work. So for me, when it comes to what I identify with truth, it does have to be self-evident and real for me, but it also has to work and work well. And if something doesn't work well, it must not be true. And I know it has never worked well or been true for me or for anyone else that I've observed to approach in that way. It has never helped them step into their empowerment. Very rarely. And if you say, well, it has me because I had this coach or I had this person and they broke me down and they built me back up. That might have been the case. And again, I can understand that experience, but not everyone is going to respond in that way. There are different experiences and energies and all of that, and there's so much more that we're not even going to get into in this video that could contribute to that situation being right for someone. Like I said, that tough love, father figure, insensitive and compassionless kind of, you're being a victim, mentality, that typically does not work. And in the rare cases that it does, there's probably a really good reason for it, such that, or as an example, that you grew up in a household where a father figure supported you in that way, so you see that as love, and so now you're able to receive that as love as an adult, and you're able to strengthen and develop resilience from that and grow a stronger sense of self and step into your own empowerment because of that. But that's because of your conditioning and your history that made that possible. Not the case for everybody. So again, your truth is your truth, but I encourage you to explore this truth too, because there are always at least two sides to a coin. Okay, always at least one other truth or opposite that is also true with every truth that we share and speak. So with victimhood, we can become insensitive. As we start to embody more awareness and more responsibility in our own reality, we can become insensitive. And we call this right now, we see it pretty regularly, spiritual bypassing. And again, it's using spiritual truths to totally bypass the very real pain, trauma, and experience of another human being. And there is another way, and that's through compassion. Compassion is transformational. People tend to think that it has to come through the tough love, through forcing sovereignty, through forcing responsibility, through willing someone to feel and be and stand a certain way. But the truer transformation that I've seen and experienced in my own life, despite even having that experience as a child where I experienced tough love and thought that to be love and can respond pretty well to tough love, despite that being the case, when I am in deep pain and in very deep experiences of identifying with my pain and feeling like a victim for even a short period of my life, the greater catalyst and transformation and support for me has been compassion, has been someone holding space for me to feel exactly the way I feel and to be exactly the way I want to be and share what I need to share and vent what I need to vent. And interestingly, that in that experience, in being allowed to surrender to that experience and be in that space of victimhood and wallow in it for a half second or a half minute or a half hour or whatever that is, something shifts, the energy moves, and then we step into our own empowerment thereafter. Now, yes, it is different. When someone has been in victimhood for a half minute or a half hour or half month or half year, that is still very different from being in victimhood for half of their life. And that might be the time where we've given compassion and we've given endlessly and we've held space and we've been sensitive and we've dropped down into our own humanity and we've dropped down into our own experiences to be able to hold space and offer that common humanity and that hand and that partner on the journey. And if you've done that for 20 years with someone and they're still identifying with victimhood, it's your time to walk away. And if you've tried tough love, I would try tough love at that point because that's who I am. But some people might just walk away. But I will tell you right now, the answer on social media when you see a random stranger who is upset or sad, or if you see someone post something about having a rough time, that is not your chance or your opportunity to be Mr. Spiritual Tough Guy and force them and will them into their empowerment, that's not going to happen. That will empower you and effectively disempower them and perpetuate the same victimhood they're already in that you're trying to get them out of. It's nonsense. It doesn't work, especially with strangers, especially when they're in victimhood for a hot second. So as an example, I would consider myself a pretty aware, conscious, evolved human being. Okay? I am also willing to share the many facets of my human experience and my own vulnerability on social media. I'll share sometimes when I have a hard day. I'm willing, on occasion, not very often, but I'll share my emotional reactivity when I think it's in service to a higher cause or a greater purpose. I'll share those moments, or I'll sometimes share those moments to show everyone that I'm human, that we are all sharing this human experience, that no one is immune to the human condition. There's always purpose behind what I share. All of that said, people all of a sudden either think they need to will me and force me out of my own disempowerment or victimhood. Girl, it's okay. I know you got this. I knew that I had it. Don't worry. Don't you worry. Don't you worry for me. I've got this. Or it's the opposite, where it's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And people are pitying, right? I'm not saying we have to police people's responses here. What I am saying is, we don't have to assume victimhood where there isn't victimhood and push and shove someone into empowerment, because that's not going to work. We also don't have to pity and wallow with them and force them even further into their misery. There is a balanced way. There is a middle path, and I think that's with compassion, with empowered compassion, meaning we're holding space for them to be who they need to be, to feel the way they need to feel, to share and express what they need to share and express. And you will find, whether it be a friend or with a client or with whomever, that they are going to shift. Their energy will shift and they will step into empowerment. And again, it might be different for someone that you have shared a space with in your life. Perhaps it's from your family of origin or from a long life friend or whatever, that they've been in disempowerment and victimhood for a long time. At that point, after you've given of yourself so many times, it might be time for tougher love, or for that sort of grandfather figure where you come in with more of that sovereign nature and support them to step into their greater empowerment, where you simply acknowledge their pain and walk away. That's really what it has to look like. And then there might come a time where you walk away completely because they are committed to their pain. There have been people I have met and engaged with in real life and on social media that they've shown up for the past 6 months or 6 years or whatever, and the same pattern, and I can see they don't want to be helped. They don't want to be rescued. They want to stay right there. That's another thing too. Maybe they want to be in their victimhood. Maybe that's their experience this lifetime. Maybe that's their contract. They wanted to experience what it was like to live in grief for the entirety of their human life. We have no idea. And if we want to behave sovereignly ourselves, we don't go forcing our own will into their situation. We can hold space. We can be encouraging. We can support them into their own empowerment. I think compassion should always be a part of that formula. But the shift isn't going to come from us forcing our will into their soup. That's not how this is going to work. So there's the greater formula, I think, for transformation when it comes to victimhood. First of all, recognizing that victimhood is oftentimes a result of many traumatic experiences and lots of pain. Some people, like me, some people like maybe you, if you're watching, you might develop a stronger sense of self or greater armor or a greater armor facade. So maybe the armor is not even real. It's just a hard shell exterior. So some of us might look pretty on the outside because we have developed a socially adaptive way of coping. So people think that's actually healthy, when in truth, maybe we haven't dove deeply enough into our own emotions, but it just looks good on paper. Maybe that's the way that we have dealt with our own pain. But these other people might have just lost their footing completely. And now they're in a bottomless pit or hole. And it's because life has shown them probably a pretty tough hand of cards. Usually when we find people who are in an experience of victimhood, they've experienced some pretty difficult, painful traumas and tragedies in their lives, time and again, time and again, time and again. And while spiritually we might be, as the conscious awakened people, right, we get into the space of, okay, well then that's because they're in that vibration and they're identifying with that, and they need to stop vibrating that frequency and they just change it. They wouldn't experience it anymore. Easier said than done. And also, when you're in that space, you often have nothing left to give. You have nothing left to want to change into this and to that and all the things. You know, I had a very rough year, 2018, 2019, and I let all my spiritual beliefs and all of that go. I let it be shelved for a hot minute because I didn't want to care, or didn't even care. I didn't have the energy to sit here and let me find some empowerment myself and shift my energy and frequency. Fuck frequency is how I felt, right? And so that's how most people feel when they're in a difficult time. So the answer is not to go in there and demand that they change their vibration or frequency, or demand any change at all. The only transformation that can come is from us as the spiritual, awakened, conscious person and being, stepping into our own heart, stepping into our common humanity, stepping into recognition, stepping into understanding. Do you want to show how spiritual you are? It isn't manning up into your own sovereignty and forcing your will to change on someone else. It's stepping into your own humanity and deepening into your experience on earth and the human condition, which can be very tough. And it's offering your acknowledgement at the very least. And if you must, walk away, but it's not going to be through throwing your weight and your spiritual clout around. That is never going to change anyone. The greatest transformation, if you haven't experienced this, I encourage you to look for the support, whether it be through a therapist, a mentor, a coach, a circle, something where you can experience what it's like for space to be held for you, so that you can fully surrender, so that you can fully grieve all of that pain and that deep bottomless pit of pain, so that you can experience that energy shift and recognize how truly, deeply healing and liberating compassion can be and is. I would say most of the people who are throwing their weight and their spiritual clout around, acting all sovereign, have never had someone hold space for them in that way, so aren't even aware of what is possible through the gift of compassion, because that is transformational. The growth and the expansion and the new vibration, the new frequency, and all of that stuff that's thrown around in the spiritual communities, that happens through compassion, through allowing someone to be where they're at enough and or long enough such that they shift and evolve into the next pattern, into the next vibration, into the next frequency on their own. It's never going to come from you willing it on them or forcing it on them. Tough love may be needed on occasion. Maybe I'll do a Here on Earth for tough love or another video, but I don't want to dive into a whole other topic here. So we identified victimhood. Now we know that the most transformational thing we can do is offer our compassion and our own humanity. And that, in fact, is what brings the transformation that we seek for them. And at the end of the day, if they want to be in victimhood and they've committed to victimhood, that too is their choice. And we can either choose to be in their lives or not, and that is our own sovereignty. And that if someone on social media shares their pain and hardship, our role and responsibility as a spiritual person is not to deny their pain and their trauma and their history, and to talk them out of their pain or to will them out of their pain. It's to acknowledge their pain, again, to step into compassion, those true spiritual qualities. If there's any truth at all to our spiritual nature, it's compassion, it's kindness, it's generosity, it's love. Show that, try that. And if that's not in you, then walk away. That is the better, more responsible choice if we are looking for responsible choices as spiritual beings. So with that, I conclude our episode, our first episode of Here on Earth on victimhood and compassion. I encourage you again to like and subscribe and to join me next time.